So welcome everybody to a look and a review of a new release from Eureka that was released on the 5th of December and 2022, and it is The Ghostbreakers and The Cat and the Canary, both starring Bob Hope and Paulette Goddard. Now, I've not seen anything from Bob Hope before, which is a bit of a surprise given how lengthy his career was. I think it was something like 8 decades long. But I have seen at least something else with Paulette Goddard before, which was The Great Dictator with Charlie Chaplin, which was released around the same time as both of these films. Both of them are horror comedies, although one more so than the other. And the first of which is The Cat and the Canary from 1939. Not the first version of this film, as there was a silent film from the 20s that was also the same thing, based on the same source material. But this was directed by Elliot Nugent, who I've not seen anything from before. Clocks in at 72 minutes long, and alongside Bob Hope and Paulette Goddard, you also have John Beale, who was also in The Firm and Amityville 3D, as well as Gail Sondergaard, who was in The Invisible Man's Revenge, The Climax, which was another Eureka release earlier this year, The Black Cat from 1941, and one of the better Sherlock Holmes films, The Spider Woman, because there were like 15 between the 30s and the mid-40s. And that was easily one of the better ones. 10 years after the death of millionaire Cyrus Norman, his will is to be read out to his 6 relatives, including Joyce Norman, who played by Paulette Goddard, and Wally Campbell, played by Bob Hope. Organised by Norman's lawyer, Crosby, the 6 meet at Norman's eerie New Orleans Gothic mansion. During the reading, the superstitious housekeeper declares that someone will be dead by midnight. Wally fears for Joyce when she is declared the sole inheritor, but all are alarmed when Crosby turns up dead. This horror comedy was pure entertainment from beginning to end, and which comes down to the two leads being really good, either together or separately. It has tight pacing, as it only clocks in at 72 minutes long, that's a very short running time, so it's very tightly paced, and there are plenty of laughs in that short running time. Pretty much a laugh a minute or more in some cases. And the supporting cast is also decent. I really like the setting. It uses the Gothic estate really rather nicely done. The way it shoots it, the way that its lighting is done, the whole effects of the lights going out and on and the like are really well done. And they use the space really well as well, because obviously it's only one mansion, estate or whatever. So therefore you can't really go much further than that. And, it's a lot of films that use only one building as a setting usually feel a bit cramped or whatever, but this feels really rather quite expansive, and that's due to the cinematography being really well executed, and the plot as a whole is engrossing. But the main draw with the first film, The Cat and the Canary, is the two leads and the comedy aspect, because that really works. Yes, it's got horror elements to it as well that are actually got some quite good tense scenes to it as well. Some also really well shot moments as well, like when a hand starts creeping from behind a wall onto the Paulette Goddard's character while she's in bed and stuff like that. So very good film. 4 out of 5 as far as I'm concerned, and really does make me want to watch more of Bob Hope's films from around this period. And then moving on to 1940, we have The Ghostbreakers, which has one of the goofiest looking ghosts on the cover I have ever seen. Like that. Instantly made me laugh when I saw that, which unfortunately isn't the kind of thing that is in the film. So it's not as hilarious as it looks in terms of the horror element of the ghosts and whatever. Don't go expecting anything like that. But it was directed by George Marshall, who also did Destiny Rise Again, a really rather good western, and The Blue Dahlia, a really rather good film noir. And this clocks in at 85 minutes long, so it's a little bit longer than the previous film. Also stars Richard Carlson, who was in a few good sci-fi films from the 50s, like Creature from the Black Lagoon, It Came from Outer Space, and The Magnetic Monster. He was also in a Ray Harryhausen film called The Valley of Gwangi. Also stars Paul Lucas, who was in The Lady Vanishes, a really rather solid early effort from Alfred Hitchcock, as well as 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, 55 Days at Peking, and The Monster and the Girl. After intrepid working girl Mary Carter, played by Paulette Goddard, becomes the new owner of a reputably haunted mansion located on Black Island near the Cuban coast, a stranger phones warning her to stay away from the castle. Undaunted, Mary sets sail for Cuba with a stowaway in her trunk, wisecracking Larry Lawrence, or as he likes to call himself, Lawrence, a radio announcer who helps Mary get to the bottom of the voodoo magic, zombies, and ghosts that supposedly curse the spooky estate. So, yeah, Bob Hope plays Larry, and yeah, this is the second collaboration between both Bob Hope and Paulette Goddard. They'd go on to make a third effort, Nothing But the Truth, I think it was called. And that's the same kind of basis for that film as was for the later film Lie Lie with Jim Carrey. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that third film. And yeah, I mean, even though this isn't quite as good as The Cat and the Canary, which is mainly down to the horror element of this horror comedy taking a long while to kick in, because the horror element really doesn't become effective or properly kick in until they get to the Cuban estate. It is still an entertaining effort even before that. But like I said, it only really comes alive once they get to Cuba and then the haunted castle. But still, the two leads are once again really good together as well as separately. It is reasonably well paced. The Cuban setting in the second half is really well used. The castle looks appropriately spooky and is really rather nicely shot. It is well overall engrossing, has a solid amount of laughs, and the supporting cast again is decent. So yeah, it's not as funny as The Cat and Canary. It does take a little bit of time to get going, although there are a few one-liners at the beginning that really, really got me. So, yeah, it is funny when when it tries to be funny, but there are some times when it gets a little bit convoluted in terms of the plot and the characters, and like I said, it's only in the second half that you really get the horror element to it at that time, and that's truly when it becomes as entertaining as it could have been. So, yeah, but still a really rather solid film, and it's not like it's a massive drop in quality over The Cat and the Canary. It's still a 3.5 out of 5 film. It's just that The Cat and the Canary is more tightly paced, better directed, and yeah, doesn't drag at all, while also balances the horror and the comedy elements really rather nicely. So yeah, but a great set overall, and another fantastic release from Eureka. So as per usual, you do get the different sides that you can choose for whichever film you prefer. And yeah, they're both on a single disc, which you can see. And yeah, you also get a really rather nice booklet. So there's Bob Hope and Paulette Goddard. And yeah, you get the cast credits, you get different kinds of posters with them as well inside. So that's the original poster for that one. And I'm pretty sure that's the original poster for the Ghostbreakers as well. So you get the casting credits alongside those. And then you get an early history of the horror comedy by Craig Ian Mann, called, it's also got like Ghouls and Fools there at the top. So yeah, this is one of the these two were one of the earliest horror comedies. After this you get all your Abbott and Costello stuff, like Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein and the like, but that came a lot later than this, although I think they did have one in the early 30s called Hold the Ghost or something like that. But yeah, I've not yet to see that, so I don't know how much that stands up in comparison to their later efforts. But yeah, you also get 1080p presentations of both of these films. You get brand new audio commentary tracks on both films with Kevin Lyons and Jonathan Rigby. You get Kim Newman on The Cat and the Canary and The Ghostbreakers. And you also get a 1949 radio adaptation of The Ghostbreakers as well. So yeah, a pretty solid release overall, to be honest. And yeah, even though it's not my favourite two films that Eureka have released, I think I overall preferred the likes of the H-Man and Battle in Outer Space, the Ishiro Honda double release. But still, overall, this is a really, really good effort. And as I'm a big fan of, 30s, 40s horror, as well as horror comedies, these were a real treat to watch. And yeah, it's really nice that they finally got a proper presentation. So yeah, highly recommend getting these, especially if you're into these two actors, because like I said, I've barely seen anything from Paulette Goddard before, nothing from Bob Hope before, but I'm sure those fans of those two at the time will have enjoyed them. And yeah, really looking forward to trying out their third and final collaboration. But unfortunately, that isn't included on this because it's just a straight comedy. There's no horror elements to it. So yeah, but yeah, overall, really fantastic release. And again, really glad to see Eureka are keeping up the classic horror films from that time, because they've done it with the Boris Karloff collections, and now they're doing it with this as well. So yeah, nonetheless, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.